Welcome to Quick Truth. My name is Derek Truesdale, and this week I want to continue our study through the book of James. And this week I actually want to finish chapter 1 of James. So it's chapter 1, verses 26 through 27. And those verses say, "If anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue but deceives his heart, this person's religion is worthless. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world." So as we're looking at these verses, he's saying we want to bridle our tongue and make sure we're monitoring our speech. And then also we want to show compassion to the needy, and we also want to be living a pure life unstained by the world. And this is really kind of a litmus test of Christianity. And so if we're doing these things, we're showing that we're Christian. This isn't a full view of Christianity. We can't just do these things and prove ourselves Christian, but we should at least be doing these things. And that's what James is saying here. So he starts out by saying we need to have a controlled tongue. And he's saying we need to bridle our tongue. And that's showing imagery of a horse. So you drive this huge horse by a bridle on its mouth. And you just turn this way and it goes that way, turn that way. And it's pretty easy if you know what you're doing. The bridle controls the horse. And in the same way, our tongue, our heart, when we speak, it's really showing what's in our heart. And our heart kind of drives our tongue. So if we're not controlling our heart, our tongue can go and we're saying, whatever comes to mind. And it's not good. So we need to be controlling of our speech. And if we can do that, that's showing the fruit of the spirit of self-control. If we cannot control our tongue, if we're talking about people behind their back, if we're really belittling people, that's kind of the first thing that comes to mind is we want to, put these people in their place. If we can't control our speech, if we kind of go off the handle and we just say whatever's on our mind, we're not showing the spiritual fruit of self-control. So, if we can do that, if we can show that fruit of the Spirit, if we're even trying to move in that direction, we're showing a mark of true Christianity. So we want to have a bridled tongue. We want to have compassion on the needy. And he's saying here to show love to the widows and the orphans. And that's a theme all throughout the Bible of God showing compassion for these needy people. And also it's a theme in James. As he starts it here, he goes throughout the book and talks about this. A fact that God shows it is in Psalm 68:5, where that says that God is the father of the fatherless and protector of widows is God in his holy habitation. So he takes care of these people. And it's not just these people, but these people are the epitome of helplessness. They can't help themselves, especially in ancient times where if you're a widow, and in these times women couldn't work. So if your husband had passed away, you're in a really bad spot and you really need help. That's why in Acts, the early church was dealing with widows so much because of that fact. And as we look throughout the Bible, there's examples all over the place. Jesus in Luke 7 brings the widow of Nain's, the town of Nain, her son back to life just to help her. We see Elijah and the widow in 1 Kings 17, where he helps her. And then in Luke 6:30, there's a teaching about if you help people that can give back to you, then you really haven't gained that much. But if you help someone who cannot repay you, then you're really gaining a reward in heaven. That's an eternal reward because they can't give you back. And so that's teaching all throughout the Old Testament and New Testament. So as we're helping people that cannot help us back, and specifically widows and orphans here, we're really showing God to them because we're doing what God would do if he were here on earth. So now we've seen we should have a bridled tongue, we should have compassion to the needy, and then finally we should be living a clean life. So as we're getting into these social environments and trying to help people, sometimes we can start to think like them and we can start to change because we're around them. So we shouldn't be affected in that way. Our social involvement should not compromise our moral purity. And this isn't talking about like smoking, drinking, whatever. This is talking about seeing the world the way the world does. So the Bible talks about a world system that thinks about things that are only in this world, the very temporary things that pass away. We find way too much worth in those things about the world. And a Christian is supposed to be separate from that and think about eternity and things that do not pass away. So as we are getting involved in society, we shouldn't be thinking about only these things that pass away and helping temporal needs. We are to be doing those things, but also be sharing the gospel and trying to win people's eternal souls to the Lord. So that's the utmost important. Are we focusing on that? And we don't want to lose focus of that as we're helping people. So now we've seen we should bridle our tongue, we should have compassion, we should be living clean lives. And as we look at this litmus test of Christianity, we probably all fall short in some way on this list. So as we're thinking about in our lives how we can improve these things, we can pray to God to help us and to change these things in our lives and give us the will to want to change these things in our lives. So as we're doing these things, as we try to change in these ways, we become more like God and we can show God to the rest of the world. This has been another Quick Truth. Thanks for watching. God bless, and I'll see you next time.